Sarah, a kind, compassionate, and strong girl with big dreams, yet deeply sensitive at heart. She is always ready to help others. Ryan, a troubled but talented young man involved in the drug trade due to difficult circumstances. Deep down, he has a desire to become a better person. Detective Michael, an honest police officer who believes in justice and believes everyone deserves a second chance. Judge William, a fair-minded and wise judge who values arguments and the human element. Emily, Sarah's childhood friend and her biggest support. She always comforts Sarah in difficult times and encourages her. Scene 1, the meeting. It was a chilly spring evening in Chicago. Sarah sat in a small cafe, designing for her client. The soft music and the cold wind coming from the window made the atmosphere even more peaceful. On the other side, Ryan sat, lost in deep thought, holding a cup of tea. Suddenly, due to a mistake by the cafe waiter, a cup of coffee fell on Sarah's table. Sarah quickly started saving her work, while Ryan immediately stepped forward to help. "Are you okay?" Ryan asked gently. Sarah smiled faintly and replied, "Yes, thank you. But my design might be ruined." Ryan said in his deep voice, "I'm not an artist, but looking at your hard work, it seems like your work is very special." That one sentence became the foundation of a unique bond between them. A few moments passed in silence, and then Ryan couldn't stop himself from talking more with Sarah. In the following days, these meetings became more of a routine than a coincidence. Ryan began to open up his soft side, hidden behind his serious demeanor, and Sarah could sense the pain in Ryan's eyes. Their hearts started to pull towards each other, but Ryan was haunted by a fear, a secret that could threaten their growing closeness. Scene 2, the revelation. One night, when Sarah arrived at Ryan's apartment, she heard his voice from the door. He was speaking to someone on the phone, his tone serious and cold. "This shipment needs to be delivered tomorrow. No mistakes allowed." Upon hearing this, Sarah realized that Ryan was involved in the drug supply business. Her breath caught, and she stood there frozen, torn between fear and sorrow. Her hands started trembling, and her heart raced. She stood by the door, searching for the courage to step inside. When Ryan realized her presence, he abruptly hung up the phone. "What was all that, Ryan?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Ryan tried to lie, but seeing the tears in Sarah's eyes, he fell silent. He lowered his head and said, "Sarah, this is the life I can't escape. I'm stuck in this mess." Tears began to flow from Sarah's eyes. She said, "Ryan, I've always seen a good person inside you. But this path will lead you nowhere. Do you want to bury your life and your love in this darkness?" Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes. He said, "Sarah, I'm forced into this. I have no other way." "Ryan," Sarah said firmly, "love has power. Together, we can get out of this mess. But you need to promise me that you'll try to change your life." Ryan thought for a moment, then whispered, "I don't know how this will happen, but I'm willing to do anything for you." This moment marked a turning point in their lives, where Ryan felt hope for the first time to change his life, and Sarah put the strength of her love to the test. Scene 3, arrest and struggle. Before they could make a decision, the police raided Ryan's apartment. The loud sound of the door opening startled Sarah. She saw Ryan panicking, and then the police handcuffed him. Ryan's eyes were filled with shame and fear. "Sarah, forgive me." His words were left unfinished as the police began to take him outside. Sarah stood frozen, her eyes locked on Ryan's face, which was marked with helplessness and regret. Her heart raced, but she couldn't do anything except watch. But a voice inside her echoed, "This story can't end here." As the police cars drove off, Sarah pulled herself together. Her tears flowed down her cheeks, but a spark of determination had been ignited inside her. "I will save Ryan, no matter what it takes." She met with lawyer after lawyer. One by one, they all said, "This case is very complex. The evidence against Ryan is very strong. With every refusal, Sarah's heart broke, but her steps never wavered. Detective Michael, who was in charge of the case, was moved by Sarah's persistence and Ryan's story. One evening, he called Sarah for a meeting. "Ryan isn't a bad person," Michael said. "He just went down the wrong path. I'll testify for him in court. But we need to come up with a strong strategy to get him out of this." Michael's words ignited a ray of hope in Sarah. She strengthened herself and decided that she would take her love and struggle to any limit for Ryan. This moment was a reflection of her deep resolve and the truth of her love. Scene 4, the courtroom battle in court. Sarah gave her all to defend Ryan. She took a deep breath, trying to hold back tears as she said, "Your Honor, Ryan made mistakes, but those mistakes were the result of circumstances, not a reflection of his character. He has a desire for reform, and love has shown him the way to change. Please give him a chance to make his life better. Your Honor, Ryan made mistakes, but he is a good person at heart. He has a desire for reform. Please give him a chance." Detective Michael's testimony and Sarah's emotional appeal moved Judge William. He decided that instead of prison, Ryan would be sentenced to rehabilitation and community service. Scene 5, a new beginning. Ryan walked through the doors of the rehabilitation center, his heart heavy with uncertainty. Every step felt like he was leaving behind a life he thought was all he deserved. The past, full of mistakes and regrets, seemed impossible to outrun. But there was something different now. A flicker of hope, sparked by Sarah's unwavering belief in him, kept him moving forward. Sarah watched him from a distance, her heart aching. She had seen the man he could be, even when he couldn't see it himself. The thought of him changing, of him truly finding his way, made her feel a combination of hope and fear. She was afraid of losing him, afraid that the dark shadows of his past might pull him back. But more than that, she knew that if she didn't hold on to him now, if she didn't give him the space to heal, she might lose the future they could have together. One evening, after months of struggling, Sarah sat beside Ryan on a park bench, their usual place. The air was cold, but the warmth between them felt like a comforting embrace. Ryan had made progress, but he still wore the weight of his past in his eyes. It was evident in the way he sometimes flinched at every word of encouragement Sarah gave him. "Sarah," Ryan whispered, his voice cracking with the weight of unspoken fears, "what if I can't do it? What if I'm not strong enough to change? What if I'm still that person I was before?" Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly. She saw the raw vulnerability he was hiding, the same fear that had kept him trapped for so long. Her voice shook, but it was firm, filled with love. "You are stronger than you think," Sarah said softly. "I know because I've seen the man you are beneath all the pain. The man who wants to be better. And that's all that matters. You don't have to be perfect, just take one step at a time. I'll be right here with you, every step of the way." Ryan turned his gaze towards her, his eyes filled with gratitude and a deep, overwhelming love. In that moment, something inside him shifted. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself to believe in the possibility of a future where he wasn't defined by his past mistakes. "Sarah, I don't know if I can ever repay you for all that you've done for me. But I promise you, I will never give up. Not on myself. Not on us." His voice trembled with emotion as he spoke, his hands shaking. Sarah's heart soared as she reached up to touch his face, her thumb gently brushing away a tear that had escaped. She kissed him softly, their lips meeting in a promise of a future filled with love, healing, and redemption. Just then, as if the universe itself was showing them the way, a shooting star streaked across the sky, a silent witness to their silent vows. They both smiled, a moment of pure connection, knowing that their journey together had just begun. Scene 6, success and happiness. Years had passed since that first fateful night when Ryan had chosen to turn his life around. Every day had been a battle, some harder than others, but Sarah had never wavered. Through each struggle, each setback, she had stood by him, offering not just love but the strength to keep going. And Ryan, in return, had become a man she could see a future with, a man who had grown from the pain of his past into someone worthy of the love they share. But today felt different. Today was more than just another step in their journey. It was a culmination of everything they had been through, together. Ryan stood in the doorway of their small apartment, watching Sarah as she carefully arranged flowers in a vase. The soft sunlight from the window kissed her face, and for a moment, he just stared at her, his heart full of gratitude and wonder. How had he gotten so lucky? How had this woman, who had every reason to give up on him, stayed by his side through it all? "Sarah," he said, his voice rough with emotion. She turned, a smile lighting up her face as she met his gaze. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, the smile never fading, though she could sense the shift in his energy. Ryan walked over to her, his hands shaking slightly. He knelt before her, his heart pounding in his chest. "I've been thinking about how far we've come. About everything we've been through, and how much you've sacrificed for me." Sarah's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of deep affection and concern. She knelt beside him, her eyes searching his. "Ryan, you don't have to thank me for anything. I did it because I love you. Because I believe in you." Ryan shook his head, his eyes welling up with tears. "No, Sarah. You don't understand. I was broken when you found me. I was a mess. And you," his voice cracked, the weight of his emotions heavy in his chest. "You saw something in me that I couldn't even see in myself. You stayed when I didn't even believe I was worth it. And now, because of you, I'm standing here today. A better man. A man I never thought I could be." Sarah's heart ached as she saw the tears in his eyes. She cupped his face in her hands, brushing her thumb over the tear that fell. "You were always worth it, Ryan. You always were. I never doubted that." Ryan's chest tightened, and for a moment, all the memories of his past, the struggles, the pain, the mistakes, seemed to fade. All that mattered now was the woman in front of him, the woman who had given him a chance to be the person he had always wanted to be. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that I'm worthy of your love. I want to build a future with you, together." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she shook her head, unable to speak at first. Her heart swelled with love for him, love that had grown stronger with each passing day. This moment, this quiet declaration, was everything they had fought for. And just when she thought she couldn't love him more, the depth of his words proved her wrong. "Ryan," she finally whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "you already have. You've already proven everything to me." He reached into his pocket, his hands trembling as he pulled out a small box. He opened it to reveal a simple but elegant ring, a symbol of all the promises they had made, of the life they were about to build. "Will you marry me?" Ryan asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes searching hers. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she gazed at the ring, then back at Ryan. She couldn't find the words, her heart was too full, too overwhelmed. But she didn't need to speak. She threw herself into his arms, her laughter mingling with her tears. "Yes," she whispered, "yes, Ryan, 1,000 times yes." In that moment, everything around them seemed to disappear. The noise, the struggles, the past, none of it mattered anymore. They had made it. Together. As the days passed and the wedding day approached, Sarah and Ryan's bond deepened. They had both come so far, individually and as a couple. Ryan's rehabilitation center was flourishing, helping more and more young people who had once felt trapped like he had. He had turned his past into a source of strength, and it was now a beacon of hope for others. Sarah, too, had found her place, continuing her work as a designer, but now with a renewed sense of purpose. Her heart and her art were filled with the love they shared. On their wedding day, as Ryan stood at the altar, his heart racing, he looked around at the people who had stood by them both, Emily, the friends they had made along the way, and most importantly, Sarah's smiling face. As Sarah walked down the aisle, the love in her eyes reflected everything they had been through. It was a love that had been tested, a love that had grown stronger with every challenge they had faced. And as they exchanged their vows, Ryan promised to never forget how far they had come, to never forget the woman who had believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. "I will love you," Ryan whispered, "forever. No matter what comes, we will face it together." And as they sealed their vows with a kiss, the audience erupted in applause, but for Sarah and Ryan, it was the sound of their hearts beating as one.